So ever since EA and DICE shut down Battlefront 2 in early 2020, the very large majority of the Battlefront fanbase has been absolutely screaming for Battlefront 3 to have to be one of the most requested games in the history of gaming, and I don't say that lightly. Well, it turns out that we are now getting the Classic Collection in about 2 weeks from now, and I'm not going to lie, I'm starting to think the two could actually be linked. Put your tinfoil hats on, boys, we are going for a ride. Now, the sheer amount of hype around the Battlefront Classic Collection has shown that players still very much want another Battlefront game. The fact that so many of us are keen to play such old games, that is pretty much all the proof that we need of that. It is not very often that a essentially 20-year-old game can re-release and people are this excited to play it, considering how much gaming has changed over the last 20 years. Now, the trailer for the Classic Collection has over 1 million views already. It's actually closing in on close to 1.5 as I'm recording this. And for a bit of context, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, one of, if not the single most anticipated game of 2024, which might I add, won the most anticipated game at the Game Awards last year. So I'm not just saying that based on nothing. Not only do I think it's the most anticipated, but clearly a lot of other people think that as well. Well, the most recent trailer for that game is at about 600,000 after around 2 or 3 weeks. The Battlefront Classic Collection trailer has almost 2 times the amount of eyes on a 20 and 19-year-old Star Wars game in only a few days compared to nearly 3 weeks. So that right there says a hell of a lot in my opinion. Those are definitely some pretty insane numbers for a trailer like that. Now, I've definitely seen a lot of discussion in the community over the last few days. A lot of people are wondering if this could actually be essentially a litmus test for Lucasfilm Games and Disney to see whether there is actually any interest in Battlefront still. Now, in my opinion, they are incredibly dumb if that is the case. Just literally go and look at the replies to any single EA Star Wars tweet and all you will find is people calling for Battlefront 3. People do not care about anything that EA Star Wars tweets, they just want Battlefront 3, and it's been like that since 2020. It's been nearly 4 years of that now, and that is absolutely insane to think. Now, while I do think that that is kind of dumb for them to need a litmus test, that doesn't mean that I'm right. Just because it's dumb, that doesn't put it past EA needing to do that, because we all know that they have been a little bit out of touch, to say the least, over the last 5 to 10 years. I think a lot of those bigger companies have. It's the same with like Activision and Ubisoft and stuff like that. And so just because we maybe think it's dumb that they need a litmus test, maybe they still do. And so that doesn't mean that I'm right, even though I think it is a little bit dumb. And to be honest, if that is what they're going for here, that could be really, really good for us as Battlefront fans. Now, before we go any further, if you guys weren't aware, I do actually have a free tier to my Patreon. Yes, free Patreon, where you can gain access to the private Discord, as well as gaining the ability to vote on all the content you see across each of my channels. And on top of that, anyone who is a free member will automatically be entered into any giveaways that I do throughout the year. I'm going to be giving away some merch at some point. I'm also going to be giving away some video games. And on top of that, I'm going to be giving away a couple of lightsabers throughout this year. So if that is something you guys are interested in, be sure to go and check out the Patreon. Becoming a free member will automatically enter you into any of those giveaways, and the link to that is down in the description. So be sure to go and check it out. Click that button that says join for free. But with that being said, let's get stuck back into the video. Now, even if they haven't even considered this as a litmus test, maybe they are legitimately just doing this as a cash grab and they're just trying to make the easiest money possible. Even then, it could still prove to be a litmus test in the sense that it could be a huge awakening for them. If this game does really, really well, it may still just prove to them, oh damn, we can actually still make another Battlefront game. Now, me personally, I know this is an older game. I know so many of us have put so many hours into those original Battlefront games, but I do genuinely think this could still sell potentially millions of copies. All you need to do is look at some of these smaller, cheaper, and kind of like goofier games that have come out this year in both Palworld and now Helldivers 2. Both of those games do have a cheaper entry point than the typical $70 game. Both are much more like simplistic. They're kind of smaller scale. They're not trying to do everything at once. They're just focusing on what they want to do and doing it pretty damn well. And overall, both of them are just those, I guess, like pure fun type of games compared to your big AAA blockbusters, where obviously the games like God of War and all those sorts of games, they're still very fun and they're still incredible games, but they are definitely made in a certain way compared to a game like Palworld, for example, where it is clearly just a bit of a Pokemon ripoff, Pokemon with guns as they call it, and it looks like a hell of a lot of fun, and that's really all it's trying to be. And both of those games are absolutely killing it. If you look at Palworld, they've just put out the other day that there has been 20 25 million players for that game. Yes, it is obviously on Game Pass, so that contributes to that quite a bit. But for a bit of context, 25 million players is more than the highest selling PlayStation games of all time. And this is, like I said, pretty much a Pokemon ripoff with guns. And then when you look at Helldivers 2, that game has had like over 800,000 concurrent players across both Steam and on the PlayStation. And it is just absolutely killing it at the moment. It's probably the biggest game right now. So you look at both of those games and I see no reason why Battlefront Classic Collection can't sell like 3 to 5 million copies, if not potentially more than that. It is such an old school classic that I do think a lot of people are going to be like, damn, I used to love that game. I'm going to definitely buy it and just even play it for a couple of weeks again. And because of that, I do think that this game could sell absolutely insane numbers. Now, that's not guaranteed, of course, but if it does do that, Lucasfilm would be so incredibly stupid not to see that and think, damn, we can definitely make another new Battlefront game. If this game sells really well and it sells, millions of copies as a 20-year-old remaster with no live service, they would surely be thinking, imagine the money they can make off a new one at full price on next-gen consoles, with the ability to also monetize that further through battle passes and skins and all that kind of stuff. They would be absolutely stupid to not see the potential there, and that is why this game could be so crucial for the future of Battlefront. Now, whether it does sell good or bad, I do think it will be crucial for the future of the franchise, because either A, it's going to be an enormous flop, it'll sell like 50,000 copies and just no one cares about it, at which point, Lucasfilm and Disney, they just look at it and go, okay, Battlefront is kind of dead, let's completely move on, and we got our final little cash grab from the Classic Collection. On the flip side, it could sell absolute millions, at which point it could actually be the thing that revives the franchise and causes them to kind of wake up and make a third game, even though that would still probably be 3 to 4 years away at a minimum, but it could be the thing that almost greenlights that game where they go, damn, this is doing absolute numbers, we have to make a Battlefront 3. Now, me personally, I'm not getting my hopes up. I think Disney and Lucasfilm are apparently blind to making multiplayer games. We've seen the recent news about the Respawn shooter apparently being a Mandalorian game, and it still seems as though there is no multiplayer. I think they just seem to be so scared of doing it for some reason, so I don't know why that is the case, but that is kind of causing me to not get my hopes up. But I do think it is interesting to think about either way. For me, I'm really hoping this does absolute numbers. I would love to see this game just sell like 10 million copies, something absurd like that, because I do think that that could be absolutely great for us as Battlefront fans. And to be honest, it would be pretty cool to see the original Battlefront games kind of come and save the current Battlefront games, if that makes sense, being the thing that almost greenlights the next game. I think that would be really awesome to see, and I do think there is potential for that to happen. I don't think it will. EA and Lucasfilm Games have kind of just made me be a little bit pessimistic about Star Wars games over the last few years, but I am still an optimistic guy, and so I would like to think that it is possible. Likely, not so much, but I definitely think it is possible if things were to go absolutely perfectly. Either way, I'm keen to hear what you guys think about that theory. If you're interested in more Battlefront content as well, be sure to hit that subscribe button. There is so much more content on the way, both in the lead up to launch and then obviously well after launch too. But with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and may the force be with you always.